Hello and welcome to the Sorare Data Show. I am Andrew Lairdinho. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined today by Sean Newton, psufans2, to talk about the Prem. Sean, there was a long time on Sorare where we just didn't talk about the Prem because it just didn't matter. And now it's the only thing that matters, I think.
I think that's stretching it a little bit. I don't think it's the only thing that matters, but it definitely isn't like the Prem, there's three guys that don't suck and that's the extent of it. It's now like the Prem, that's the marquee spot, and most guys suck, so like having the good players matters a lot.
So one of the the recommended videos or something, I was on YouTube the other day and they were like, hey, here's one that you might like. And it was our video after they had announced that they signed the Prem, but before cards were out. And it was like how much we thought cards would go for. And we were talking about all the new players. And we did an entire section on Rodri. And we were like, this is going to be the best player that isn't on the platform right now that everybody's going to have. And just slots right in as the best player.
Go us. We smashed that one then.
It was easy.
He's very clearly far and away the best player. It's like, I mean, there's really no one on the platform that does it like him without any sets, really. It's like that good with like no set distribution.
It is wild to see those scores with no set pieces.
Yeah, like I mean, like we have other players that are obviously good, but this dude's like a 75-ish average player with like, let me pull up what he is for City. For City, he's a 75 average player with like a 20% 100 rating. In the last year, he's started. If I do starts in the last year, he has 42 starts, and he has 100 9 times. So it's literally a 20% 100 rate, and he has like 90 like 5 other times.
This is just Rodri.
Now I will say, this past year, his decisive rate was a lot higher than it's been previous years. So yeah, you're right. I don't think that maybe is necessarily as sustainable as like other things, but like regardless, like I said, I think we had this talk with Surface, and Surface was like, can he really maintain that decisive rate? I'm like, well, here's the answer to this question is, if he maintains the decisive rate, he's the best player on the platform by a wide margin. If he doesn't maintain that decisive rate, he's the best player on the platform by a not as wide,
a smaller margin. Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, he's still a great age too. Like he's not ancient, which obviously is a key. Like you want someone to not be ancient, and he's not ancient. I mean, he's 28. Yeah. He still probably has 2 or 3 elite years left in him. He doesn't sit like at all. Like he seldomly sits. When he does, you know about it because they make a big thing about it. Like, oh, Rodri's exhausted. He's going to take a break this week in this game that doesn't matter, and he sits one. But like, yeah, he just doesn't really sit tons. So it's just a really good card, and it's a really, really good player. I mean, I wish I've had one. I wish I had like 6 to be fair.
So, like going back, it's actually pretty surprising to me that you don't have one. Like we knew all along. And obviously, I guess the plan was to win one, but I'm surprised that you've gotten here without one.
So I would have had one, I think, but then the platform sort of died off.
Yeah, now he's cheap.
But I'm saying like that sort of happened, and I was like, okay, I'm not as super duper interested in it. And then and to be fair, I probably still would have bought one, but then they're like, we're making these changes to the Prem, and I'm like, shit, I have like nothing. Like, of all things on the platform, Prem Rare is probably my weakest area of like anything on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally don't think I'm not really counting limiteds because like I don't care that much about them.
Yeah.
But like I would say of everything that I remotely care about, Prem Rare is like so far behind everything else on the platform for me.
And I mean, you played Rare Pro plus whatever.
Champ Rare Plus, right? But not Prem. It was never Prem only.
Yeah.
So it was like literally, do you want to know like my best cards in the Prem? I'll literally tell you what my best cards in the Prem are, and you're gonna be like,
is Doku in the list?
Is who?
Doku on the list?
Probably. It's my stuff is just not very good. So I'll tell you what I have, and then I'll tell you like what I won, because what I won is a lot different than what I had previously. So like goalie, this is my goalie situation. Okay, ready for my goalie situation? Verbrugge.
Sure.
Nick Pope.
Yep.
That's it. That's it.
It's a tough multi-enter right there.
That's it. I won Nick Pope too. That's it. That's my situation. So like that's my goal. Is like I have Kepa. I don't even Kepa's gonna be back up in Spain again. Like that's relevant. Murik got relegated, so he's done. Turner lost his job. I just won by Inder literally last week. He's the backup. And then Pope was out all year. So I literally had Verbrugge. And then I obviously had Murik last year, really gets weak. All right, defenders. So defenders that I had before this happened that like actually play. Ruben Diaz and Robertson and Virgil van Dijk. And then I bought TAA. So like that's my defenders. That's okay. Like that's fine. But then I won a few that are not great, but like that's it. Midfielders. So midfielders that I had before the season started, Caicedo, who I won, Declan Rice, who I won. I literally like didn't buy. I don't think I had bought a Prem player. Like I didn't buy a Prem player, but now I have some good ones because I've won. Like I won Cole Palmer. That's a great card to have. I won Caduce. Caduce was pretty great last year, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
He was really under the radar with what people viewed him as, but like it's just like
I think the biggest part was that without Premier League only competitions, there was almost always someone in a different league that scored as well as the Prem guy you wanted, and the Prem guy was always going to be more expensive because he was a Prem guy.
Well, and my guys always matched up better with my non-Prem guys because of what I had elsewhere. Like if I go to forward, like I literally think I'm forward. I mean, my best forward is probably Hoyland.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it though. There's only like 3 or 4 you'd want anyway.
Yeah, like I have nothing forward wise. All right, so like let me, for example, like let's counter this and let's go. I'm gonna look at like La Liga and I'm gonna see like what I had in like La Liga. So because like I just don't think it's just gonna be better, right? Like so I had before like last year I had like a bunch of Depays. I had Vinny Jr. I have a Lamine Yamal. So like those are all better. Then like midfielders.
You were furious when you won Yamal, by the way.
What?
You were furious when you won Yamal.
No, I wasn't. I don't think I was furious when I won Yamal.
You were just like, I'm gonna have to wait forever for this card, but I can't sell it because he's gonna
No. That was Pedri. That was Pedri.
It was both of them.
No, it
absolutely
wasn't
Yamal.
I didn't win Yamal that long ago. I won Yamal pretty recently.
I'll find the receipts on that one.
I didn't win him that long ago. So like,
this is the only guy I don't want from this group. It was one of those.
Well, yeah, but like it's still a fun card. Like, yeah, I just don't like. I mean, even like La Liga, like I just don't have the players that you like that I want to compete. So like for me, the issue is here's my issue going into the season, and in general, I do not have the players required at the rare level to compete.
So my quick response to that is for in season, no one does.
Well, yeah, that's true. And that's kind of what I was planning. But at the same time, I kind of feel like the classic competition cards are typically undervalued by quite a bit.
We'll get into that. Thanks everyone for coming in. I didn't even do this yet. KB97 Premier League Rivals Leagues. We'll talk about that. Philly Dilly and Sam on the podiums. Congratulations, you guys. Alex, what's up? SR Monkey. Hoping that I won't distract you from Rivals Lock this today, which is why we did this earlier.
I actually have an appointment today, but I set my lineup 3 days ago, and I don't believe I'll be changing it. So
yeah. Chris Holt, what's up? Justice for Finster. Rui. ZM Star, spend more, save essence, hate Finster for stealing boxes, show over there.
Finster has, I don't believe, stolen a box yet.
Oh,
Monkey won the box yesterday. SR Monkey won the box yesterday.
Looking for food, what's up? Maybe we'll do a La Liga episode.
Yeah, we can do one.
Legendary. Fripp, what's up? 7 a.m. in this economy. Joke's on me, I'm awake anyway. Yeah, exactly. Glenn, what's up? Let's see here. Had a real life meetup with a Draft Kicks. How about that? Skylar's always a good time.
Nice.
Mike Baston, what's up? Also with the hashtag, are we going with justice for Finster? Is that what we're
Apparently.
Carrie, what's up? Thanks for coming in live. Ryan Walter, good morning. Coffee and Sorare. Yeah, got mine here. Scosmo, what's up? Red or Dead. Sean, fun fact, Red or Dead 69, born in 1969.
Look at that. Nice.
Yeah. Scosmo, apologies. No, this is a Aston Villa shirt. It is somebody. Hold on, let me see. If
I thought it was West Ham when I first came into the.
No, Charlie nailed it.
Because you had when I first came in, yeah. When I first came in, the mic stand was blocking the badge, so it looks like a West Ham shirt. Yeah, it was like that, and I just thought it was a West Ham shirt.
Yeah, could be. Johanneton, what's up? Jack, thanks for coming in. Fripp, Leagues Cup still matters. League. We haven't talked about Leagues Cup, but I'm not sure there's going to be much to say. Raul, what's up? Bullstar, did you get your Aston Villa shirt in a trade for Chelsea? Financial shenanigans in football, one of my favorite things. Carrie said, Sean, has your opinion changed on Doku?
I don't think so.
There was no, somebody else. Would you still want Doku over Vinny?
No, not now. Okay. I think that was before everything switched over. Vinny also took a step forward this year. He was much better from an AA perspective.
Bullstar said he remembers us saying Højbjerg was the second best to Rodri, which at the time I believe he was.
To be fair, Højbjerg, if he plays, is typically a monster, and I'm pretty sure whoever stepped in was really good in the role too. Who was it? I had his unique Basuma. Basuma was really solid for a while. The issue is Basuma has less offensive game, for example, than Højbjerg.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Here we go. Prem. Højbjerg in Prem starts. I guess he died at the end. So I don't even know.
If you look back before this year, though, he was a smasher. He still smashes for Denmark, to be fair.
Yeah. As Armangi said, oh no, consider Rodri cursed now after this pumping.
I would love
him a year ago.
I would love Rodri to be cursed since I don't have him. I would be fantastic if he's cursed. Then I don't have to buy him.
S King back again, repping the real ghettos of Cape Town. What's up, South Africa? Thanks for coming in. Simo in the house. Oh my gosh, up the Villa. I don't know if all of his Liverpool friends.
I've heard Cape Town is really nice and then also really sketchy.
I mean, you could probably use that description for every city in the entire world.
No, lots of places are not really nice.
Oh, that's true. That's fair. But I would say that many cities where you're like, I heard some of it's really nice.
Yes.
Always has some sketchies. Anyway, Nixon, what's up? Ben, Toby, early one today, and Steven, Colonel Dickweed meeting Zidane soon. You guys still in first place?
We are in first place.
Let's go. Ben said, Prem is the only competition that I don't have classic stacks for. I have 1 Bundesliga and 3 for all other classic competitions, including U23. Yeah. Martin, what's up? Let's see. KB bought Verbruggen for Euros and had a Feyenoord collection. Now Minta moving to Brighton. Weaver maybe 2, so naturally I'm buying a Brighton collection now.
What? Yeah, so Weaver's going to Brighton. That's the rumor. That would be fantastic.
The one I saw before that was Liverpool, but
that would probably be less fantastic.
Less fantastic.
Plays there. I'm pretty sure he'd play at Brighton.
Yeah,
if he played at Pool.
The seriousness of these Turkey to Dortmund rumors are.
Yeah, I saw the Turkey to Dortmund rumors. I'm unsure, of how good that is. Oh, the literally just popped up on my feed right now. The Pavlidis to Benfica. Yes. So I said, well, we've talked about this before. This is a side topic, but going into this summer, I was pretty much like, well, there's so much shit because it's really the same thing. Yeah. So Scosmo said that if Weaver effectively takes the growth spot, sign me up for that one. But going into the summer, I was like, oh, there's some, because I have a lot of holes to fill. I do, and it's just is what it is. We're talking about it right now, sort of. But at the same time, I'm like, my champ cards are. I have some good ones. I have some really good high end ones, super rare level. I have some great cards, but I don't a lot of the guys that I have there aren't death move type players. I have Kavicha. If he moves, he's gonna move to probably even a better spot than where it was. I have Jude. Jude probably doesn't die. Stuff like that. But I have absolutely no challenger super or forwards. None. Like it was like a wasteland. It was basically like last year at the end of the season, it was like it's Pavlidis, and then it's like it's Pavlidis. And I'm like, well, there's no way Pavlidis doesn't take a death move. What?
I know you have one.
Which one do I have?
Aral Simsir.
Yeah, that's a great card. That's really doing well for me.
Sean, you're gonna win. You're gonna win stuff with that card this year.
Yeah, maybe he'll play. But so, anyways, so I had like a very, very big void in Challenger Super Rares, and also like Challenger Super Rares, like probably my strongest position on the platform. Like, I'm really good there. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to buy some Challenger Super Rare forwards, and this is just not great. Because I figured Pavlidis had like a 0% chance to not die, and he somehow upgrades his spot, which is like awesome for me personally. And then I bought Carranza because I really needed a forward in MLS, and I'm like,
yeah.
If he eventually moves to somewhere like it's Feyenoord was like heavily rumored at the time. I'm like, yeah, that'd be fine too. And then I bought him, and he literally DNP'd and crushed my lineups like twice because he just random DNP. Then they're like, he's back, he'll be playing, and then he DNP'd again because they're like the move's really close. But so all of a sudden I went from like nothing to like Pavlidis at Benfica, which is like in theory great spot. Like, I mean, Gonzalo Ramos looked good there, so I mean that feels fantastic. And they really don't have a forward, like they don't have a striker, so like in theory he should start. And then immediately after that, Carranza went to Feyenoord, and I'm like, well, shit, if I get both these guys in these spots, I might not have to fill that hole, and I can worry about other things instead. I'm like, that would be fantastic.
Did Rollheiser go back to Argentina?
No, Rollheiser's there, but like Rollheiser barely played. Is Rollheiser like, or did he go back? I think he maybe did go back. I'm thinking
he's not a 9.
The other dude went there. Yeah, so he's back. I think he went back to Estudiantes, maybe. I don't know.
Toby's right here. Sounds like you're missing a Matson.
I would like a Matson, but isn't a Matson a mid?
Both.
He has both. Yeah, Matson would be a really good card. Matson's been really strong.
I have 2 of them.
You have his forward super?
2 of them.
You have 2 forward supers? That sounds like a good card for me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll hit up Laird. I mean, hopefully Laird doesn't give me the same sort of cards that I give him when he buys them off me.
Does speaking of which, Kim Min-tae back this weekend.
Nice.
Does Haber still have one?
He did, but he was selling super rare, so I don't know if he still has one. I don't know. He's like, by the way, we have hopefully this person doesn't like watch this week's episode, because Haber and I are literally counting the amount of times Watt changes his direction over the summer. It's like in the double digits already in June, and Watt's like changed his direction like 15 times. I think Haber has a mid.
Haber sold his, sorry.
But he had a mid, right?
Nope.
He had a forward too?
Yep. Harry Trades has one. All the cool kids. Mickey's got one. Everybody's got the cool.
How did you end up with 2?
Dollar cost average.
Gotcha. No, yeah, that could be a card I could have some interest in, Laird. What can we trade for it?
Harry said he's going to take credit for the Matson buys. 10%. I don't know. We'll see, Sean. We'll see.
Like, can I give you some trash?
Oh, there we go. Rollheiser's permanent transfer was today. Okay, but yeah, he's not like a 9 though. Like, he's not going to be.
Yeah, like Rollheiser's not like a 9. Like they're like, I think they were playing Tankstad at the 9, and I don't think Tankstad is like a 9.
He's been rumored back to Copenhagen or Midtjylland.
That would be fantastic since I have his card. Although, I mean, yeah, he played at the end of the season. But like, yeah, he was playing as a striker, but like, I don't think Tankstad's like main position is a striker, is it?
He feels like one of those weird players that you're like, yeah, he's a forward, and they're like, where? And you're like,
yeah. Yeah, I guess he's a striker, but like he had some left mid game. He was all over the place when he was at Rosenborg.
Yep, I did see somebody. Who was it? Was it Mickey? It was something to be aware of. Brighton do have a new coach, so like, who knows what we'll see. And Rikamon's right. We need some Adon news.
Has there been anything on him?
Nothing.
Let's see. Let's look it up.
There was Bettis, and then Bettis was linked to 17 other better guys, and there was another.
Yeah, right after I won the Bettis goalie.
Yeah. I forget what the other one was, but he sounds like he wants to go to Champ.
Mikey Fu is saying that Tankstad is a 9.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then in that situation, I'm pretty confident that I actually think Pavlidis is pretty decent. Like, I think
he should. I mean, it's a good situation, and he's obviously shown he can do it in a good situation. So.
Like, I find it hard to believe that they're going to pay what they paid for Pavlidis, which was like 20 mil, and not start Pavlidis, who I actually think is pretty good.
Yeah.
So like I feel like similar like Carranza. Like I feel there's a pretty good shot Carranza starts. Actually, I think so. Well, I guess it really just depends on Carranza what happens with Jimenez. But like I actually think Carranza is an upgrade over Jimenez.
Yeah, maybe. Charlie said Don getting a starting spot in champ seems like a stretch. You clearly haven't seen the bottom of La Liga enough.
True.
La Liga 2 would be terrible. Well, maybe not terrible.
No,
I guess I would take that. Isn't that bad that I would rather him in La Liga 2 than La Liga?
I mean, no, I don't think so. Like, I'd rather have my guy at a better team than a worse team.
Anyway, Skosmo's right. We fell off the Prem discussion.
We did.
Sean, I'm actually going to start. The original conversation here was supposed to be, we were going to speculate on what cards were going to cost. And you were like, let's talk about rivals. And I was like, I don't want to. What is there to say? Sean, we're going to talk about rivals.
No.
Because there have been, from what I've seen, a number of bigger FPL content accounts of people who are playing the Euro, like rivals Euro competition. And a number of them were like, or it was from Nicola's tweet today, where it was like, if you love Sorare now, just wait. And a bunch of them were like Premier League rivals. And I was like, well, we have that because you have rivals for all of them, but like special rivals competitions from the Prem sounds like a phenomenal idea to me.
I mean, I think it sounds fantastic. I think you do like a monthly thing where it's like you get like 6 game weeks where you put up a rival score. Like I love rivals. You know, I've always loved rivals. I find it really entertaining. I find it really fun. I think a Premier League rivals would be really good. Like it's such a better product than like Fantasy Premier League, by a mile, like by shitloads. So
it seems like the Zidane 5-a-side rivals comp, you just copy and paste it, play it Anfield, and you're good to go.
Yes, you just need to tweak it and like actually pay for people's travel expenses.
Oh, that part. Yeah.
Like
I thought you were going to say the whole highest scores per game or per day, because I actually think that what they have now is good enough.
I agree. Well, if it should be per day, but
well, I don't think the per day works. Like I think you could do per game week.
Per game week. Like in that situation, it's per game week. You use like per game week the best score, whatever it is.
It is a little tricky though, and Glenn brings this up because like they do play like 5-6 games.
Well, I think it'll probably work like how it works. But the thing is like the kind of shit part is like it's going to end up being like whatever score is the best in the Arsenal game versus Luton Town or City versus Burnley game.
I actually think that there ends up being more strategy if you're like the top 5 scores from every game we count. And if you have 20 people, all 20 are not going to play the same game.
Well, no, everyone plays every game, just like they do in the Euros. Like everyone plays every game in the Euros. You don't.
But it's because you're never getting more than 2 at a time. Like signing up to play 6 rivals games for one time is not a good experience.
Yeah, it's fine. I do it frequently.
You would do it, sure. Well, we're not talking about you doing it.
Yeah, but then if you don't do it, you just don't win. So just like.
Yeah, I don't think that's the game they want to put out.
I mean, if they're doing it like that, and if they do it like that, though, that's how it's going to have to work. Like you can't just play one game and get the best score of the day. If
this is another good point from Mike, is that
you don't have to have the rivals tickets though. You can just make your lineup. Like for the Euros, it's just make your lineup. Like you don't actually have to play rivals.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like that's such I say that so flippantly because I have no idea, but it seems like so easy to just like, just copy what you're doing and just do it again for the Prem. I would
make some small tweaks.
What would you change?
I would actually have the prize pool make sense based on how you're doing things. Like, again, we talked about like the 10 jerseys for the league is like weird as shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's just weird. And then you pay for the travel expenses for people that go to play at Anfield. Like, you pay for them to fly, you pay for them to get the hotel, and then you do. Oh well, I mean, I guess the one per day is like that's a bit different. Like the best score per day, you make it so that everyone's incentivized and like can participate the whole time and like be invested.
Mm-hmm.
So like those are the three things I would change.
Do you think that there is a viable season-long competition through Rivals?
Sure, you could do it as a season-long competition as well. Like you can do it as a season-long competition. I think you obviously, like, if you do a season-long competition, you lose. I mean, I would do both, right? You can do a season-long and month-long competition, and maybe you do a week-long like you can do all of it. Like you can do every single one of those options. But like the issue with a season-long is like, let's say you do a season-long competition, by the middle point, or not even the middle point, like 10 weeks in, a lot of people are just going to be like not as invested.
That happens anyway, though.
Yeah, but if you make it like a monthly, then all of a sudden, okay, they're back because they're invested again. Like I'll give an example from the Euros tournament right now. I would bet a significant amount of money in the Euros tournament that like nobody outside the top 15 or so can win the tournament right now. Like if your league isn't in the top 15 or so, you like cannot win. I would say right now. Like let me look real quick.
Yeah, I didn't even mean it's season long instead of month long, or because Mike, I agree with you. Yeah, come October, half the people are gone.
Yeah, so like I think like if you do month longs, like it just like they might leave after a couple weeks, but then they'll be back when the next one starts, type of thing. Like there's the potential to like make people like recharged with it. Yeah, maybe you run it. Maybe Charlie brings up a good option. Like maybe you run it from every international break. Like international breaks are typically like every 6 weeks, give or take. So like maybe you just run it in between every international break. Then international break happens, and then right out of it, which like typically the international breaks are the most dull times for people.
Yeah,
you come out of it and you have a new fresh one starting. That's actually a pretty good idea by Charlie.
international breaks aren't boring anymore, Sean, because we have Rivals.
I like international breaks, but I also like international better than like regular club football. Like I like international football. I know some people don't. I really like it.
Looking for food said, I hope it's not season-long Rivals leagues. I don't want to commit like that. I don't think you have to just do it. Like, I don't think it's going to be the only thing they offer.
Yeah, they'll probably do like a mix.
It's realistically the opposite of what they do now.
Yeah.
Hoodwink says calendar month. Yeah.
Sure.
So we'll see. Yeah. I don't know.
So pricing, Laird. That was a topic. Let's bring up what we had last year during the transitional phase and show people like what we had, what we think is going to happen with the prize pools from last year during the transitional phase. So this is what we had last year from the transitional phase of things. So we had
this was just from the blog. Like I think they adjusted sporadically, but
yes.
Yeah.
So basically, what is your expectations this season with what they're going to do?
I think it's going to be 10 to 25% higher.
That's pretty much exactly what my expectations are. I would actually have said I would have said 10 to 50%, but 10 to 25% seems more realistic.
50% higher?
Yeah, but I think your 10 to 25% is more logical. Like if I had to, I think you're spot on with what I would expect.
It did seem like they indicated that everywhere, that it was like, we will be higher when the season starts.
Well, and you and I talked about it before, and I made the comment, I'm like, if it goes down, that's a disaster. If it goes down, I would be like, oh my God, this is bad.
I can't see any reason for them to be able to justify going down.
So. I cannot see them going down in any world.
Yeah.
I see them going up 10 to 20%, and being like, hey guys, we're moving up. So all of a sudden, if they go up, let's say 20%, that's a pretty good increase for a weekly perspective, like of what you can get. Like all of a sudden, D1 winner 2,400 instead of 2K. Instead of 1,300, you go to say 1,500. Instead of 1K, you go to 1,200. You go to 650 or 700. Like there's a pretty good chance that it goes up.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go up, because we are going to not have that information, we have this information and we assume that it goes up from here. I think a good Premier League rare team can generate you over the course of the season $4,000 in rewards. A good lineup that has like the good players. What would you say?
That seems man. I think it seems reasonable.
Like I'm saying, my sort of thought process is that you have a good team, and I'm talking like some of the better players. Fripp said no chance. I think that Fripp is incorrect here. So in this scenario, I think like if you have a good team, yeah, I was gonna say that Fripp, but I didn't because I didn't want to offend people saying I was mean to Fripp because I love Fripp, but Fripp said Fripp is bad. Fripp makes some mistakes, I would say, compared to maybe some other people. So
I would just say Fripp plays with his heart. That's all.
Yes, Fripp plays with his heart. Fripp plays with his heart over his head, and it shows sometimes, unfortunately. But if you have a good lineup based on what we just showed that Laird took off the screen here.
Sorry, I'm scrolling through because Scosmo mentioned this earlier, which I thought that they had mentioned that they would be going up, but I can't find it in here. So
Hoodwink said playing with your heart is good. If you think playing with your heart is good, then that is all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
That is really all that matters. And if you have fun, that is the only thing that matters.
The one thing I wanted to bring up to you, so looking at these prize pools, the champions one was actually higher. Do you think that's going to be the case still?
Yeah, I think champion is still going to be higher because it's a lot more difficult to win. Like that's a lot more difficult, I think, than Premier League. So, anyways, back to what we're saying. I think so. Charlie said, I think a top player with the top team could easily podium twice. I think it could even be 3 times. So let's hypothetically say that. What?
You sound like Nep.
No, Nep talks about it on the limited level. Like I'm not drunk. Like I think rare level, someone could podium 2 to 3 times over the course of the season. So if you podium 2 to 3 times over the course of the season with a lineup, let's just call it like you get second every time, or let's just say you get third 3 times, 2 to 3 times. That's like $3,000 based off last season's numbers. Then I think you're going to have 10 or so times where you'll hit the top 25. And in theory, like obviously it's a little bit trickier because if you have one lineup and you're only running one lineup, you having a lineup consistently in D1 isn't going to happen. So it's a situation.
Sorry, before you keep going, how many people on the platform do you think it's reasonable to expect a podium 5 times in the season?
5-0. I don't at rare level 0. I don't think anyone can expect it. Well, are we talking about like one individual lineup or if someone's running 3 lineups over the season that are all really elite?
I consider you are somebody that I think could podium Premier League multiple times over the season. How many of those people are like you? How many people are like you?
I don't know, like 20.
I mean, that's more than the whole season, right? I guess we have what, 99 spots ish, 30.
Yeah, but like we're not saying that they're gonna do it. We're saying they can.
I think your expectation of, or at least the way that you're saying it, you're making it sound much easier than it will be.
No, I'm not saying everyone's going to do it, but like here's the thing that I don't think you're counting. At the beginning of the season, the competition is going to be much lighter because people aren't going to have the new season cards to be there. So if you buy right off the get, like all those high-end cards, you have a lot higher of a chance of podiuming early. But it's going to obviously cost you to get there.
Sure.
No,
yeah,
so
I mean, it will only get harder.
Yeah, Fripp asked, just for context, how many players are in this hypothetical squad? So there's different ways to discuss this. I think if you have like one team and you're only running one team, it's going to be more difficult to do something like that because you just you're going to have week where you just like slide out of D1 because you ate some DNPs and you're all of a sudden in D2 and that's not as good. So if you, let's just say like, if you spent 10 grand, which obviously most people aren't going to do, like, let's say you spend 3 ETH, I think you could podium 3 times over the season pretty consistently in Division 1.
You're still short of the 10 grand, but I guess you're just considering podium.
Well, yeah, but like I'm just talking podium here. Yeah. Like I think if I buy like 3 Rodris, I mean, I'm not kidding.
You say that as if like Pranksy's not going to buy 3 of them.
No, I'm not kidding. Like if you buy like three Rodris, and then you buy another rest of your cards to fill out your teams, and then you always will have at least 1 or 2 teams in Division 1. How many teams were in Division 1 in season at the end of the season in Prem? When was the last Prem game week?
It was like May. Actually, I mean,
I have one that probably will give me.
It was game week 477.
477. Okay, let's just see. I'm just curious.
Rodri had 100.
Shocker. Premier League D1. I'm going to see how many players were in. I'm just curious how many people were in the competition. So I'm going to see. But like, so the issue is like, so there's only Laird. Guess how many players were in D1 Prem at the end of the season in Rare D1.
I didn't play any Prem.
So so you have no idea. And like, I will give you 2 different numbers because I think there are probably 2 answers to this because one of them is like these people were playing lineups that just were not relevant lineups in this situation. But how many actual entries were in D1 Prem last week of the season?
200?
136. So like if you have 2 elite level lineups in Prem in season D1 and there's only 136 people, like at the beginning of the season there can't be that many. There's not going to be that many. There's going to be like,
well, we have no idea what the pre-order volume is going to be.
Yeah, but people likely aren't going to spend the massive piles at the beginning of the season. There's going to be some. Like Pranksy will buy the beginning of the season first runs of cards, right? But like a lot of people aren't. Like a lot of people are going to wait to win some cards, not spend the beginning run of the Prem. So like the first couple weeks or like the first like month, you're probably going to have a lot less people. But anyways, let's say like
you also have to make sure you're in Division 1 as soon as possible if you're not already.
Well, it just carries over from the transition. It doesn't reset.
That's what I'm saying though. Like people, if you're not in D1, like you have to consider that for the fact that you're going to be competing early in the season, not in D1. So your upside, your EV is lower.
Yeah. So anyways, I don't think I have a Prem in season D1 team, which I mean, that's not surprising at all because we went over my Premier League cards from last year. But so all of a sudden, like you have like, let's say like 100 people that enter a realistic lineup every week in D1. If you have 2 to 3 entries in that every week, like you have a pretty realistic shot to podium that at a reasonable rate. If you have the best cards,
it's your best opportunity to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying like, even like, so the last week of the season, which in theory should be the most people ever in D1 in theory, like that might not be the case, but so at most you have 136 entries. And I would say, oh, I did have a D1 lineup last week of the season, Laird. I got relegated. But like, I would say, but like, again, like we just talked about how dog shit my shit was. And I had a D1 lineup at the end of the Premier season. Like last week, I had a D1 lineup. There's probably only like 30 to 40 lineups that are like legit pretty good. Not that much. There's probably more. There's probably like 50 to 60. But so like if you have 2 to 3 of them in D1 every week, like you have a pretty damn reasonable shot at hitting a podium.
For sure.
So like, I think people that actually spend and have the best cards and have the best lineups have a pretty realistic shot to produce over the course of the season.
I think you could also make the argument that they have the best shot to produce the entire season because like they have their cards early, which means their
Correct.
XP is higher. If they do collections early on, like it's just all, it's such an advantage to start early.
Yeah, so like it's a thing that like I just think that all of these options are realistic and reasonable options. So like I think that you can definitely hit a podium reasonably with a team. But so like let's say like hypothetically, like I think you could spend 15 grand.
Up
And
50% already.
yeah, just hear me out. I think you could spend like 15 grand at the rare level and expect to return it on the season. I think you have a pretty reasonable shot to get close to that.
So is that good?
Well, I'm more so saying like I think you have a pretty realistic shot to return that. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying like I think you have a pretty realistic shot to return that. So
that's why I'm asking if it's good or not.
Well, it depends. It depends if you spend 15 and return 15, that's fantastic because you also then have the cards forever. So in that situation, you break even while having all these cards that you can then use in future seasons that in theory are the best cards. So like in theory, yes. So Mike Baston says, nice to see we're talking realism for the masses. So like if we're talking more realistic for like the normal person, I think if you spend, I mean, a Prem Rare team, like you probably are going to have to spend $3 grand for like a realistic, decent team. Because it's just, here's a question that I have for you. Can you make a realistic team in the Prem without Rodri right now? There's very few players on the platform where I would talk about this, but like, can you realistically make a Prem team and be like without Rodri and like, because like the issue with Rodri is if you do not own Rodri, he is such a massive damper to your team because of how good he is. I'm not saying these other players can't match him or score better than him or do good, because they can. And Bruno has closed the season very well, but Bruno had a patch during the season where Bruno was pretty ass. So like we'll give the example is like Charlie's saying Bruno G is comparable. He is significantly worse. That's the thing. Bruno is fantastic, but he's significantly worse than Rodri because Rodri is that good at the beginning of the season. So like, yeah, and Ryan is saying, so like for people that have good lineups, like realistically, like if you're gonna have a good lineup, like you're gonna have two of Bruno, Rodri, Bruno G, Martin Odegaard. Like you're gonna have two of these guys typically.
How long is that list?
Of like the mids that you realistically want to play?
Like, is that the whole list?
I mean, no, I think so. For example, like, I think Foden's on the list. Declan Rice is probably on the list. Madison's on the list if healthy. Sure. And then I've probably not Saka.
Palmer?
I would consider Cole Palmer on the list. I wouldn't consider Bullstar said Gross. I just don't think he's going to be in the Prem. So if he's not going to
be there, yeah.
Can't really count it. So I would say the list is like 10 or so mids that are like realistic, like high end guys.
Do we agree that the list for forwards is like 1? Or do you put?
I mean, forwards just. Oh, is Cole Palmer getting changed to a forward card?
He's like an England forward.
Yeah, but like, is it possible he gets?
I wouldn't depend on that.
Gotcha. Yeah, forwards just. I mean, the thing is like Son isn't that much better than everyone else, and Holland's going to score 30, 35 goals. So like, Holland's good from this perspective of like you're probably getting a goal out of him. Paulo said, I've won Premier League Div 1 in limited without Rodri, and Rodri hit 100. Guys, it's possible. We're not trying to say that it's not possible to win without Rodri and it won't happen frequently. But, like, if you do not have Rodri, it is a big detriment to your lineups compared to what other people have with Rodri.
You just need to find 70 plus.
Yeah, like you basically need to put up 70 to 80 plus. Like, that's what you need from every player. The thing is, Rodri hits it at like an 80% clip.
Right.
So like Rodri's consistency to get it is massive. Like Bruno Fernandes at the end of the season was hitting it frequently, but like the middle part of the season, Bruno Fernandes was like 40% to hit it. And again, like Bruno Fernandes in the last year has 100. Rodri has 9. It's a big difference because what that does is that starts picking up the slack of the back end. The real key is the goalie. Like on a given week, you typically are going to need a goalie to put up a good score, and not every goalie has the opportunities to do that every week. But like, I think you could probably, I think realistically return wise, so like if we look at current prices on old cards that are like out there, Rodri and Bruno Fernandes combined is like 0.5 ETH. So it's like a half an ETH. And Son is,
sorry, I had it in
because he's the clear best forward. Like I don't think it's he's definitely the best forward. So Son is like 0.1 ish.
Is he really?
0.117. So like that's like 0.6. Fripp's talking about city rotation. Yes, Rodri rotates a lot.
But you're looking at current prices, right? Like
yeah, I'm looking at current prices to like get like the numbers of where we're at currently. Yeah, Fripp says, yeah, but this goes back to the 5 best players in the same lineup won't win much because of fixture props. That's not true because the best of the best players typically have very few bad matchups. Like Rodri's bad matchups in the Prem are like 2.
I think you also have to consider that when you're only facing another, a league of 20 teams instead of the hundreds in All-Star. Like you just don't need to, the concept of the 5 best players works a lot better in a single league competition than it does in All-Star.
Yes. So Sonny is 0.1. Who's the best defenders? Like, I mean,
I have no idea what
Virgil van Dijk's probably, yeah, like do you want Josko? I don't know. Josko's kind of like all over. Romero is probably the best defender, which he matches up with Son, so like that's nice. Like Romero puts up some pretty high scores. So like Romero,
Liverpool guys, excuse me. I just we just don't know. Like
yeah, like I mean, they could be worse. They could be situation. Ben, and I actually agree with this. Ben says city rotation isn't overstated, in my opinion. They have lots of stable starters and lots of info before deadline. I agree with that. I think City doesn't rotate like what people make it seem. Like I think Foden played started like every game too. And like when they don't start, typically, like beforehand, they're like, hey, Rodgers played 38 straight games. He's gonna sit this one because it doesn't matter. And you typically have an idea that Rodri's gonna start. So like, dude, just show him for Man City. I'm pretty sure he played like a lot of games. Yeah, so like he played almost every game. I feel like when he wasn't starting, you had an idea he wasn't starting. Like
these were all midweeks too.
Yeah, well, no, like look at him though. Both of those 2 DNPs are right before Real Madrid in the Champions League semis or whatever it was. Like you probably had a pretty good idea that he wasn't going to start that. I'm pretty sure that Forest game was right before the Cup final that they played. So like you had pretty good ideas like Foden was going to sit when Foden sat.
Yeah.
But so what Charlie says also is true. I think the lack of smash forwards and defenders in the Prem makes stacks far more effective than in any other competition. I agree. So if I was building an optimal Premier League like squad, I would buy 3 Rodris. I would buy all the other alpha mids. And then I would buy like Vicario and Romero, TAA and Allison, Josko and Ederson. Whoever the hell else you want to throw in there. Like I would buy some goalie and defender stats.
Yeah.
I would buy Son. I would buy Holland. I would buy a few other forwards. And then all of a sudden, like with that, you like make your decisions on a week-to-week basis and you make your decisions. And it shouldn't be that expensive as an overall, like compared to what it obviously used to be, but like it's not going to be unreasonable. Like one Rodri is going to basically be like a defender goalie stack. Like the cost of Rodri is going to be a defender goalie stack. Similar, like it's going to be like another mid and like a Son. Because like we just talked about.
In what world does that make it not that expensive?
I'm saying what it used to be and like what you're going to be able to return. Like it's pretty realistic that you can return a lot. KB97 said all you need is a shitload of money. That's typically how it works. That's typically how it works. The more money you have, the better. But so anyways, all right, back to what I was doing. So like Sun was 117, Romero's 0.09. We'll just go with Pickford, or give me a goalie that we won't use Pickford because he's euro priced up right
now. Raya?
Yeah, sure. We'll use Raya because he's like on one of the best teams. Raya is 0.145. So like the best Premier League 11 or the best Premier League lineup you can come up with is like 0.8. Let's say you buy a couple depth pieces.
Classic prices.
Classic price. Let's say you buy a couple pieces with that. All of a sudden, you're up to like an ETH. I think with an ETH, you can buy the best Prem team with a couple backup pieces and make it really, really good. I think for you not to buy the best pieces and buy like downwards pieces, you probably are looking at like a half an ETH. So I think with a half an ETH right now, like you could buy like a pretty good roster.
Who was the Arsenal defender we used?
Well, we didn't really have an Arsenal, but use Ben White. Just use Ben White. I'm pretty sure he was the best scorer. Or use Saliba, whatever one you want.
Let's see here.
Yeah, like use one year. It's just like, yeah, it's not always going to line up, but that's the point of like you typically need a few other players.
I don't know why it's not working.
NH said, even choosing the best pieces, I think you don't hit a podium without collection points. So I'll disagree with that if you're not stacking. If you're stacking, you need collection points. If you're not stacking, like if you run a weird ass lineup like this and it goes off on a week, I don't think you would need collection points.
I agree.
Fripp had Allison and VVD and it was met. Yeah, because Allison and VVD were met. Like they weren't great.
Allison was hurt for a bunch too.
Yeah, Allison was hurt for a bunch. VVD missed some time. Like that's not a great example, to be honest.
So if the lineup you came up with was just 0.1 ETH, or excuse me, 1 ETH.
Yes.
What do they cost in July or later this month?
So to me, I would say in theory, it should cost.
Like, do you want to use an old season multiple?
2 to 3 ETH.
So 2 to 3x the new cards will be from the classic ones?
But I don't think the price should be what it is now for those cards.
What do you mean?
I don't think like 1 ETH for those cards makes sense. I think it should be higher.
Oh.
I think probably the realistic answer is the old season card should be like 2 ETH, and then the new season card should be like 2.5.
So you think those Prem cards are literally 50% cheaper than they should be?
I think so. I've thought that for a while. I thought
because of what? Because of what?
What you can actually win with stuff makes more sense that they should go for more. Like I think if you can if you think you can win back 5 ETH for spending 7, then I think that those cards are too cheap. Like if I think I can win 7.5 ETH for spending 3, like that doesn't mathematically make sense. Like why would I not just spend 3 and 3 and 3 and recoup it, you know? So like I think that it should be higher because I think the prices based on what we have currently don't make sense. So like I think if we had the prices we just currently have, you should be able to spend probably 2 ETH and probably be okay on classic cards.
On classic.
They were like at that price. Like, I think 2 ETH for a in-season Prem team would be pretty reasonable.
And you think you can return that back even in classic?
I think you should. Well, again, it all correlates, right? If the classic cards aren't selling for as much, it doesn't make sense. Like I don't think the gap should be like 100 to 200%. I don't think that makes sense because I think you can win good cards that are like strong usages in those competitions.
Yeah. I think the other thing a lot of people forget when you're like comparing the new, like, so we have Bundesliga, La Liga, and the Prem, single league comps. There are way more Bundesliga and La Liga cards than there are Prem cards.
Yeah.
Just like on the plat, like there are many more. Like I was just pulling this up. Like Kimmich has like 325 rares.
Yeah, Rodri probably has like what 100, 150.
Right. Yeah, I don't even know if it's that. He's got 145.
Yeah. So like yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. So it's like theoretically it's easier in the Prem. I think they're going to be more expensive anyway, but like we've had La Liga and Bundesliga for far longer than we had the Prem.
Yeah.
And so there's just more cards.
Yeah, so NH says in Champions, if you're not staking, you can hit podium, but on Premier League, Bundesliga, or La Liga, considering the small amount of players, I think you need collection points. The point is like, here's the thing that I don't think people understand. I think people typically miss this. If I have a defender with 0% collection and you have a player with 5% collection and my guy scores 70 and your guy scores 65, I get more points than you.
Like KB said that. It goes back to, more points.
Yeah.
You want more points.
Yeah, like if Rodri scores 100 and I have 0 and your guy scores 95 and you have 5%, I get more points than you. So like it's if you are stacking and you are one of 20 people that are running the same Arsenal lineup. Like last year, I mean, we saw this like weekly. It was like people had Raya.
I feel like the Arsenal one was actually a little easier. It was the Liverpool one that I feel like everybody was running.
It does. People literally a lot of people are running all of the same thing. It's the same thing.
You're right. You're right.
But like, if you're running the same lineup as 15 other people, you need collection points. If you are running a lineup where you have 4 guys from 5, or you have 5 guys from 4 different teams, it's a lot less likely people are going to have that lineup. Like, might only be one person that has that lineup, if anyone. And in that situation, you obviously don't need the collection points.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the old like Ajax joke, but like the best midfielder for your Arsenal stack is Rodri.
Yeah, the best midfielder for your Arsenal stack is Rodri. The best midfielder for your Liverpool stack is Rodri. Like or like for example, like a Liverpool stack, like the best forward is probably Son. Like the best forward is probably not someone on Liverpool; it's someone else. So if I run, and I've talked about this a lot before, like if I run an Arsenal stack and I run Raya, Ben White, Odegaard, and Saka, and then I am looking at forward and I'm like, all right, I'm going to play Gabriel Jesus. No, the best forward is probably Heung-min Son. And if Son beats him by 5 points, all of a sudden you lose to me.
Yeah. Paulo said if you stack your defenders and then an attacking stack, you don't need that much. Which I think
it's all about differentials. If your differentials are different, then you don't need to stack as much. If your differentials end up being the same players and you have the same line as someone else,
it's literally not a differential now. Yeah.
Well, what do you think price should be? Because like for me, like I think price wise, like if we go off of this season, what we just had prize scale, I think prices are too low from what the classic cards are. But like, for example, like Rodri is 0.33 or 0.3, just call him 0.33. Rodri's 0.3. Rodri's new in-season card should not be 0.3. It should be like 0.75.
Do you think the 1 of 100 Rodri is over an ETH?
Maybe. It's definitely possible. So I mean, he's definitely the very clear like alpha like person that people want. So like, it's very possible Pranksy comes out and like pays that.
That's an automatic 1% on that card, right? From collection bonus, because it's the 1 of and the.
I mean, I don't do collection stuff. I don't really care that much about collection stuff. So Bold Star asked this question. I think this is a good question too. Based on what you said about supply of La Liga and Bundesliga cards, do you think the EPL will be the softest champ division? I think that the EPL. So I think all of the divisions. I think this. I'm not going to use the word soft. I think that's probably not the word to use here. It's more so like higher variance where like you can win for it. I think the one that has the most variance is probably the Prem, And the reason isn't necessarily because of the supply. It's because of the amount of guys that really smash their brains out at mid. Like, if you look at the Bundesliga, there's like very few guys that really smash mid. Or like if you look at like La Liga, obviously Cruz retired. But if you look at like La Liga, like Cruz and Jude are like 10 points better than every other mid. And it's just not that high of like variance in these guys. If I look in the Prem, I have Rodri, I have De Bruyne if he's still there, I have Bruno, I have Foden, I have Gross if he's there, I have Odegaard. All these guys can pop off in a normal situation. So like La Liga is going to be very heavily dominated by Real Madrid stacks. Like the people are going to run the Real Madrid stacks. The issue in La Liga is the defenders kind of suck for everyone. Like there isn't really a good defender in La Liga.
Are there good defenders anywhere though?
There's some good defenders in the Prem, and there's some good defenders in Germany. But like they're a lot, like they're fullbacks that like can have.
Yeah, the goalies aren't the goalies you want to play with them aren't that good either. Like,
but like yeah, so like if you look in like La Liga, like Cruz and Jude and Vinny and are going to be like that. Like for example, like I'll give that a good example. Jude, Vinny, and Mbappe, for example, are going to be the most heavily used stack in Spain. And if you don't have collection, it's going to be trickier to win because I assume a lot of people are going to have Jude, Vinny, Mbappe stacks.
Yeah, but you just differentiate with your defender, goalie, and your
correct, which is what you're going to do. But in that situation, instead of differing in like 2 to 3 spots, you're going to differ in 1. Because I also think like goalie in La Liga is very clearly Courtois. He's very clearly better than everyone else because of his AA game. Like the AA game of Courtois is going to be a lot better than what a lot of goalies in Spain are going to be. Like yeah, like obviously the 82 isn't
it's broken because
but
of the
like
injury.
I think Courtois like consistently is going to be 5 or 7 points better than most goalies. And the defender for them is obviously like if you're planning to run Courtois, Adair, and then those 3, you want collection.
Yep.
If you're not going to, but so like that's what like I think Spain is going to be very heavily that lineup or like that sort of construction. Prem is kind of like you want Rodri, and then after Rodri, it's like all right, I could have Bruno, or I can have Odegaard, or I can have maybe I have Son, and then I'm like all right, I want James Maddison because they have really good matchups at the same time, and that correlates well. And then I can also play Romero because if they play a shit team, then all 3 of those guys are really good options. So there's lots of options that I think you can have within like the Prem. I think the Prem is going to have a lot more variance within like who the best players are and like what you can realistically do with it compared to La Liga and compared to the Bundesliga. But Bundesliga, like that Bundesliga the year before was a bit different, like because every other year, like Bayern's been dominant and they've had the dominant players. And if you didn't have those guys, you're kind of boned. Whereas like this year we saw they weren't as good. And then also like Leverkusen was way better. And Stuttgart was way better with some really high scores. Dortmund's defenders were really good. So like you had some other options.
You also have to remember that with the Bundesliga, there are 2 fewer teams than La Liga and Premier League, so you don't even have as many options.
Yeah. So NH said with no collections, we should avoid La Liga competition. Doesn't necessarily mean you should avoid the Liga competitions, but maybe like instead of having Adair, you want a different defender. Or maybe instead of running Jude, Mbappe, and Vinny together, you do something different and you like don't play Mbappe with it and you hope Mbappe doesn't score that week or something. Or you play these guys in Champ where maybe they won't be used as much in Champ.
Yeah, I think there's a reasonable outcome that the Real Madrid guys, because of everything that we're saying and that what everyone believes, that they become so expensive that from an ROI perspective, you're actually better just finding another team.
I think they're
so much more expensive than everyone else.
Like I'm pretty confident, like if you're talking like champ player, like one champ player you need, or like one player you want from like all the individual leagues or just in general, I think that like Rodri is the number one guy. In like Mbappe is not the number one guy like you should go buy if you like don't have one. I think it's Rodri. Like I think you want Rodri over like everyone else hypothetically.
So who's second?
Probably Mbappe just because of like who he is, the age, like what you get out of him. But I think like for example, I think there's also merit to like I think a team like Chelsea next year could have a really good year. The issue again is sort of forward. Forward kind of sucks, but like you go into Chelsea and like maybe you get the issue is like so like Caicedo scores really well and is obviously great, but like you need to be ripping 80 plus. And someone like Caicedo maybe doesn't have 80 plus in him consistently enough for Chelsea to have him make sense as a guy. Whereas like Cole Palmer does. So like I don't know, like yeah, so like Caicedo like last year, if you remove the last 3 of the last 4 games of the year, he didn't crack 80. If you're not going to crack 80, I don't really think it's necessarily a card that you can run. So like I think the best way to approach stuff is typically going to be like having different pieces from different teams because there's only so many mids that realistic. Like it's not even to like defender. If you have a defender put up 75, that's probably okay. If you have a mid go out there and put up like 70, you're like, all right, I'm losing 30 points to Rodri, 30 points to Bruno. Like you're losing a lot of points in theory to a lot of different people potentially. Other positions, it's not as detrimental. But like if you go out and your mid puts up like 60, you're like, that's just not great. Because these other mids are just such alpha mids that they're really strong.
The thought, or so Maddie was here, said, fun to listen to all the names I need, but won't ever buy, knowing I will only play my cheap guys, but with one solid score, I make my money back for the whole team.
It's valid.
It only takes one, Sean.
Well, I think so. Like, here's the thing, right? This is sort of what I'm thinking of how I would explain it. If you have the top guys, then you probably will compete for cash 15 to 25 times over a Premier League season. Like it's going to be a lot. Like you're going to be very heavily competitive.
How many people actually make money in D1? 25. Okay.
Yeah, but like if you have there are only 136 people in. If you have the best cards, like all the best cards, and you're running it, like you're gonna get cash a lot. Like you're gonna get cash like 50% plus of the time because you just have the best cards and they are gonna score the best. What you can do, and we'll use Maddie's example because we know he's a Freiburg fan. If you're a Freiburg fan and all of a sudden you have Atabolu, Leinart, Ginter, Griffo, someone else, you might not compete 50% of the time. You're going to compete like 20% of the time. And what you're waiting for is that 1 week where they play a team and the other team gets a red card like 5 minutes in the game and you get 90 minutes versus 10 men and you just print that week and everyone pops off. And it's definitely possible. And so like, for example, I'm using Maddie's Freiburg as an example. So like Atabolu is like, let's see how much he is. Like obviously this team is a bit difficult because like these guys were injured, they didn't play much season. So Atabolu is 0.08. Grifo is going to be cheap because he was horrendous this year. So Grifo is 0.01. Ginter is going to be.
Does Grifo have forward cards yet?
No. Grifo 0.01 would be great if he did because then you could run this. Ginter 0.01, like a little bit over. Leinart is 0.0059. So all of a sudden, like this entire lineup that he's going to spend is like 0.2 ETH. 0.2 ETH is like $700. The odds like that he doesn't return this over the course of the season is minimal. Like he has a really good shot to return this. Like, and there's cheaper guys in the Bundesliga that did well this year that like put up massive scores. Like you have Stover, you have Kramaric, you have like a lot of guys that put up some massive score lines. So like you could spend 0.2 ETH, which is like $700, and I think it's pretty damn realistic that you return that over the course of the season. I think there's a lot of merit in it. So like I think there's merit in that, but I also think like another thing that makes a lot of sense is like in the Prem, have a whatever stack. Like say Crystal Palace wasn't losing all their good players and you're like, I love the Crystal Palace stack. Buy the Crystal Palace stack and Rodri And then whenever the Crystal Palace stack goes off, there's like a 90% chance Rodri also has a good game, and you maximize it. Because what happens with stacks a lot of times is you have that one guy in stack that puts up like 35, and it just like it crushes you. If you can like remove that, and instead of having that shit last player in your stack, you have Rodri or something, it can be huge.
So I think the whole it just needs to hit one time mentality that we've had for years misses the gigantic point that if you have like a lower level stack or collection, whatever it is, when it goes off, you have to be in Division 1.
Yes.
Like it will not pay itself off if it doesn't. So you can't have any situation where you make it to Division 1 and then you're like, oh, they're away to Bayern this week, but I'll play it anyway. And you get relegated. And now you're like, oh, the week that I need it, like you have to be in Division 1.
Correct. You like I think in that's like I think in this situation where you like do something like that and you get to Division 1, you do not touch that until they play Luton Town at home.
Yeah.
And then when they play Luton Town at home, you run it. You use your other lineups every other week. And like, all right, you go up and down with this and stuff and you use it there. But like when you get D1, you sit on it until that good matchup. And then you hope that week that you have that good matchup, it pops off.
Yeah. Ben said with a lower level stack, we get 38 weeks of fun watching the team for a low price. It's great. But like the point of the low level stacks is obviously it doesn't take as much to make the money back, but you really need to be in the situation to maximize your return when the situation arises. And so you can't mess up before that.
Yeah. So Graham said his Newcastle collection will be 450. A Rodri and Robbo last season, currently at 95% ROI. I think it's definitely doable. That's awesome. I think that's a lot of what people should do. Is like most people should be spending like look for that stack that is going to come up. Quinny said next season you only get 1 week of not playing before they'll relegate you.
I don't think that's official.
I don't think that's official either. I think they said that for the transitional phase, it would be one you could not get relegated, and then they didn't really say like what it was going to be after. That's how rivals work, so it's definitely possible that happens, but they haven't said it yet.
Yeah. I was like corrected about that when the whole thing came out, and I was like, "Well, you have to play because you'll get relegated." And they're like, "No, that's not what they said."
Yeah, but so
it'd be nice if they said something.
This is what a lot of people will do, and I don't think this is the best strategy. So Maddie said he's playing depth and scouted a lot of guys that score well and will play matchups each week. The issue with this is like all of a sudden in this situation, you spend 0.2 on this situation, 0.2 on this, 0.2 on this, 0.2 on this. And in that situation, you could just bought the best cards anyways. And instead of having these guys that may or may not score okay, depending on good matchups, like you just have guys that have good matchups every single week. So it's a bit like when you start doing that, and you just have a shitload of dudes that like you have 50 guys that are like matchup dependent, and all of a sudden you spent more than like what 2 good teams would have been anyways. It becomes a little bit more tricky.
Yeah. I think you just have to make sure that what you're paying, that you're not buying quantity over quality.
Red or Dead said he's not a fan of complete stacks. Defensive, yeah, but I like to mix up. And we've talked about this before. So stacking is kind of like the simple way of like getting something to where if they have a matchup that's really favorable, they can use it. But I think the best way to do it is typically like have a stack. If you can afford this, have a stack, but then like don't always use it as a full stack. Like maybe you break it up and you run a defender and goalie and then other players that are better in that situation. Because typically if you do run a full stack, I'm not sure there's like a team on the platform realistically where like a full stack is a great option. Because like typically every team has like one position that's like, this just isn't a great option.
Yeah.
That's kind of how to do it. Kobe asked, will you guys be at the MLS All-Star game? Laird, will you be at the MLS All-Star game?
No.
Is that a definite no, or is that a not now, as of now?
No, I'm not going.
I'm a possible.
Columbus?
Yeah,
I'm not going.
Columbus is the easiest place for me to get to.
Yeah. Columbus, I couldn't think of, well, I can think of plenty of places I'd rather go, but yeah. Next year in Austin, I bet I go there, though.
Yeah. Well, I would consider going to Austin too. That's a whole different thing. So, anyways, no, I think the prem prices for me right now are a bit low, and I think that a lot of people should. The issue is that Fripp's upgraded himself to maybe, but like I was begging Fripp to go with me to a Copa game, and Fripp's not interested. If anyone's interested in going to the Copa America semifinal in Charlotte, let me know, because I have one extra ticket. You have to pay for it, but like I do have one extra ticket with the great Harry Trades will be there also. You can literally sit next to Harry Trades and watch the game. Maybe,
Are you doing a reverse Sorare where I have to pay for the ticket, but you'll pay for my accommodations?
No. To be fair, Laird, I've already paid for your ticket to go to a sporting event before.
Which one?
Ryan Walter is interested. Well, Ryan, you slide into my Discord and we can chat.
There we go.
Someone else from Raleigh is actually driving up for that game.
Ooh, sounds like you got a ride.
No, I'm treating it very much like So Rare. Actually, it's better than So Rare. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You get to pay for the ticket and your own accommodations, but you get to hang out with me. I mean, what's better than that? I don't know.
Colonel Dickweed said he's willing to split a hotel with you for this.
I don't really like splitting hotel rooms. I sleep too difficult. I need my I poop a lot also, so like it's just like one of those things. It's better if I'm in my own hotel room.
Wow, that's where we've gone.
Yeah, it's just like Airbnbs are different, or like places with multiple rooms are different. But
they?
I also want to go to the Copa America final, and as of right now, I don't have a ticket yet. I'm not.
Is that in Miami?
Yeah, I'm flying from Charlotte to Miami. I just don't really know like what I'm doing yet. Yeah. I bought I bought the tickets, the plane flights. Like I'm flying from Charlotte to Miami. I do not have a hotel, and I do not have tickets to the game as of yet.
That's fine.
Yeah.
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 We got anything else on the Prem? Somehow
no,
we got.
I think the prices are probably a little low. What I will say for people is like what doesn't work, and I think this is something people fall down this rabbit hole frequently. Don't buy guys that just score shitty no matter what. People buy that a lot. They buy a stack and they're like, I'm going to buy a stack with this dude. And it's just like, this guy sucks no matter what. And it's just like, that's not going to work. Like, it's different with a forward, but like, I guess defender is really the spot. Defender and mid. Like, if you just buy a guy that just like can't get there. Like, I mean, I'll give the example for Arsenal. If you buy Kai Havertz, like, you just shouldn't buy that card. It's just not the most appealing card because he just doesn't have peaks. Like for Arsenal last year, he cracked 83 times. He cracked 70 like 6. So like you have an 80% chance of that not performing. And it's not like Kai Havertz wasn't productive. The dude had 22 decisives for Arsenal last year. It's just like his AA game is just not good enough. So yeah, Mudryk's a great example. KB just brought Mudryk. If you buy Mudryk, like it's just very unlikely Mudryk performs even if they do well because the type of player he is just not very conducive to that. So like, let's say you want to buy a Chelsea stack. Well, if you buy,
I didn't know it was this bad.
What?
I didn't know he was this bad.
Yeah, like he's terrible. He doesn't put up good score lines. So like, it's one of those things. Like I don't know. I think like if you are buying stacks, you need to actually evaluate the guys you're buying within a stack and be like, can I? Because like you're looking at him and it's like, all right, Everton's a great game. Like that's not realistic, right? Like that is not a realistic stat line for someone, even though it's against Burnley. Like you look at Everton. So like pretend he scored. All of a sudden he has 66. 66 isn't really going to get you the job done. So like I think you need to, when you are buying stacks, when you are buying players, you still need to look at those players and be like, if they pop off. It's not hard. Like you look back through games. Like go back. Can you go back to that on Mudryk real quick and go to the Everton game, or go to the West Ham game? Go to the West Ham game where they won 5-0. Go to the actual game. Like go to the game page. Like if I buy Cole Palmer, can Cole Palmer get me a good score? Yes. If I buy Chalobah, can he give me a good score? Potentially. If I buy a Badiashile, can he give me a good score? Yes. So like it's more so like looking at that. And then like I'm not saying just use one game, but like look at like 6 games where they popped off. Like is everybody popping off? Because like typically, like back in the day, like if Ajax won 5-0, nobody on the team would have 47. Everybody would have 70 plus because
I feel like Gravenberch probably fit that category.
No, he was good for Ajax. He was just I got to look this up on Gravenberch now. It's some disrespect to Gravenberch, but yeah, like, but again, like that is valid. Like if you look at this and you go to Gravenberch and like you say like, all right, hey, Gravenberch sucked, and like, okay, well then don't buy mid. Like Gravenberch did have some peaks, but yeah, not many of them, I guess, towards the end. So like, if you were going to buy an Ajax stack, like you look at it and you're like, all right, I maybe shouldn't buy Gravenberch because like I don't really know if Gravenberch can get me there regardless. And then you're like, all right, instead of buying Gravenberch, I'm going to go buy Joey Veerman. Because the key is with stacking is to maximize your stack when they go off. And sometimes the best way to maximize that stack when they go off is to buy one alpha at a position where that team is weak at, and you can then play that player in those situations.
Last question here from Adriano. Who's a good forward other than Son?
So like Holland's good because he scores so frequently. And like if all the forwards are bad, it makes the guy that is going to consistently put up a decisive that much better. So Holland is good, even though he's not good. But like he's good in the Prem because if I'm the forward and I go out there and put up 70, that's pretty solid for a forward. And when I score 60, 70% of the games, I'm not going to kill your lineup like a lot of other people will do. So like Holland's good. Son's good. Garnacho showed signs of being okay for parts of the season. Dwight McNeil, Alex or Gordon was really good. Neto was someone. There are other guys. Mateta, I don't know if Mateta's in that mold. Typically, the guy in that mold is the guy that has like a 15 or so AA that can get a decisive here and there. Like I think Gordon is a great example. Gordon was really a strong answer to this question. Yeah, I mean, Doku's a good guy to have around. If you know Doku's going to start, you can pretty confidently start him.
I think McNeil is just so criminally overlooked.
Yeah, I think McNeil's always criminally overlooked. But like, yeah, like Anthony Gordon, like last year, really good. Like when you played, like you had a really good shot. I mean, can you scroll down a little bit more? Sala, like, I mean,
did Eze
okay? Like,
wasn't Eze a midfielder?
Yeah, he's probably a forward for England, but he's a mid. All his call. I don't even think he has a forward card.
Yeah.
Like Joao Pedro, Leon Bailey sometimes had some good games. Ollie Watkins is a reasonable, but like all these guys are like none of them are slam dunks. They're all just like okay options.
Yeah.
With the forward in the Prem, you're looking to get a decisive that week.
Yep.
If you get a decisive that week, you're sort of like, all right, I'll just live with the results of getting a decisive.
Yep. Simple as that. Yeah. KB said Bowen had the quietest 30 goal assist season ever. Yeah.
I didn't know he had.
You don't talk to Scosmo enough.
Bowen's a good example, though. Yeah, I guess Bowen. Yeah, like you got Scosmo and you got Andy Black. Like there's just a lot of Bowen slurpage going.
A lot of it.
Yeah, but like Bowen's good. Those are all great examples.
Yeah. So Tom keeps saying Matheus Cunha. Cunha's just so goal dependent. Like.
Yeah.
Burmo?
And Buemo has shown signs that he can be good.
Burmo is how you say his name.
Buemo?
Burmo. Bermo is how you pronounce it.
There's no R. Yeah. Can't get on board with that.
I was about to say it's a silent R, but it's an invisible R.
Yeah. Literally.
They did one of those, like, how do you say your name tweets, and he was on it.
Yeah, Bullstar actually brings up a great name. And Kunku could be amazing if he stays fit and he actually plays. Like, that's true. The issue I could see with that is that actually I agree with that. I've looked at buying him before. I think that's a very valid take. The issue I think I would say with him is that if he does not have sets and everything is just all Cole Palmer all the time, that does hinder him some. But I actually think that's a really good take if he's healthy.
Big if.
All right, Laird, I got to go.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. Thanks, everyone who is here on YouTube or Twitter or Twitch. We're on all of them. So thanks, everyone, and we'll be back tomorrow.